first, and then Haley after that.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for coming on to hear about internships this evening. I'll just run you briefly through what we're going to be talking about today. Let's turn to the next slide. So we're going to do a little bit of an introduction to who we are, who is Global Experiences, what we do and the way we operate, why do an international internship. We're then going to be looking at an introduction to DC and NYC, especially for those of you who have not visited either two cities. Then we're going to look at some of the practicalities, how the process moves forward. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, if you could save them towards the end, and Andrew will broadcast them back to us so that we can answer any doubts that you may have. So, without further ado, let's move on. So, the first question I think that really needs to be answered is, why do an international internship? What are the benefits? Well, the key benefit, in my opinion, particularly looking at it from a professional perspective, is differentiation. As you can see from the graphic in front of you, those that have a university degree, work experience and international work experience set themselves apart in the labour market. From our research here in the USA, around the top 1% of people. So that really is setting your CV apart from competition. As you know, the job market is increasingly challenging to get into a role within your chosen area of study. And so doing an internship really helps to set you apart. Alongside, obviously, the professional benefits of doing that, there are a great deal of cultural benefits, and getting to understand working culture overseas, getting to understand a new country, not only develops you as a person and widens your understanding, as many of you will know, being international students in the United Kingdom, but also it gives you a level of confidence and ability to deal with new and surprising situations. More and more we hear employers talking about soft skills and developing a wider range of skills beyond your area of expertise from your degree. An international internship is a great way to do that and to develop that understanding, that intercultural understanding, which really will set you apart. All of us here at Global Experiences have done international internships, and we all believe that it's a tremendous benefit, not just to ourselves, but the students who come on board with us. And it's important that you feel, I think, confidence in the organisation you're working with. So I'm not going to go into huge detail about exactly who Global Experiences are, but the statistics here, I think, speak for themselves. We have over 6,000 alumni from a wide range of countries around the world. We're in 12 cities. We have over 2,000, well over 2,000 global employers that we work with. And what we offer and what we work towards is developing a customized international internship program that really benefits the individual students that are coming through us. You can find out more information about us in a number of the publications mentioned here and our associates as well. But we've been doing this for over 17 years, and it really is our specialization that we work towards. So that's a little bit about us. Let me hand over to the rest of the team now to talk a little bit about New York and Washington. Over to you.
Thank you, Duncan. All right, so for those of you who have not been to DC, and maybe some of you in the room have, it is a wonderful place. It's actually, 35 minutes south of here. So we actually have staff that live in DC. I'm there multiple times a month. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's our nation's capital. It's full of culture. It's full of energy. Fun fact about DC is that the population actually increases by a little over 200,000 in the summer, just due to people coming in to do summer internships or study or what have you in the summer. So, as I said, as our nation's capital, it is the legal, political, and business hub of the U.S. There's so much going on always politically, no matter what time of year. So, I mean, that just alone makes it attractive. So let's talk a little bit about the career fields that you'll be able to find in DC. There's a long list there, but I'll just highlight a few. Criminal justice, finance, government and policy, historical archival research, human resources, law, marketing, social services, and the travel industry. So as you can see, there's a wide range of internships that many King's interns have been successful in the past. And I know that these employers are looking forward to receiving some of you this summer. So that's a little bit about the internship side of it. Let's talk a little bit about living in DC. So as I said, obviously always something to do. Some things that our previous interns have enjoyed in DC is a Nationals baseball game. America likes to consider baseball our America's pastime, so it's fun. We got to take a group of Kings interns there last summer actually, and it was pretty cool. It was a rainy night, but we made the most of it. A couple of them got to attend a performance at the Kennedy Center, which is a rather large and well-known theater here in the US. So we are still working on securing the housing for the summer, but you can count on it being very centrally located in the city with access to public transportation, a single room that will be fully furnished, and you will have access to a kitchen to make your meals and save your money for weekend excursions. Awesome. All right, moving on to New York City, equally as wonderful as DC, and it's actually only about 4 hours north of DC. So it's a wonderful weekend getaway, whether you're in DC visiting New York or if you're interning, come down to DC. It is what we like to call the melting pot of America. It's so culturally diverse. Every neighborhood is almost like a little city in itself. For all you foodies out there, there's a ton of different restaurants, food festivals, wine festivals, all these kinds of things always happening in New York. There's never a dull moment. It's also known as the city that never sleeps. So, and for those of you that end up there, you will probably find that out. While DC is the political side of the country, political side of the program, we like to consider New York as the commercial side, the financial center of the United States. So a little long list there, obviously, but to highlight a few: accounting, business, communications, the fashion industry is very popular in New York, as you can imagine, film and video production, finance, government, IT, design, marketing, NGO, nonprofit, public relations, theater. Theater is a really big one in New York. We have some wonderful theater placements for all of you interested in that out there. And travel industry as well, like also in DC. So again, that's the internship side of New York. Talk about living in New York. There's several options for housing in New York, which we can get into a little bit later once you enroll. But again, they'll all be centrally located, again, just like DC, with public transportation, fully furnished, access to a kitchen. Some of the pictures you can see down there in the middle, we like to call that the High Line in New York. It's really cool. It's an old railroad track, actually, that went above ground through the city, and it's not in use anymore, but they have transformed it into kind of like a garden with cool art and structures and all those kinds of things. But a couple of our interns last summer, as you can see in that picture, if you can see it, is a telescope. They enjoyed some stargazing off of the High Line, which was a really cool event they did there. And on the right, a few of our interns went to a Latin dance festival in Central Park, which is, Central Park is a staple of New York for those of you that have been there or have heard of it. Neither location is better than the other. They're both wonderful. Both of our groups have interacted with each other recently, in the recent programs, I should say, with a trip to Philadelphia, which is really rich in U.S. history, excuse me. So lots of good options in both cities for both living, socializing, working. It's really a cultural immersion. I couldn't think of two better cities in the United States to experience. So that is a little bit on that. An important but less fun topic would be money. So for right now, the DC cost of the program would be roughly around £5,200. It's possible that there will be a cheaper option once we align housing. If there's, if you wish to opt for a cheaper option, there might be one with a shared room as opposed to a single. So stand by for that. There'll be more information to come. In New York, it is dependent on which housing option you select. There's a couple different options in a couple different locations, but you can expect those prices to range anywhere from $4,900 to £6,131, just again based off of the location that you choose. And I am not too sure about financial aid programs or anything that might be available, so that would be definitely a resource to look into with King's directly. There might be some stuff available. Great. So let's talk about what's included in the program, your professional development and career readiness. We take our strengths here very seriously. I'm not sure if you've heard much about that, but we use what we call a Gallup Strengths Finder. It's an assessment that helps you identify your top personality strengths that you can bring with you to your internship in social settings and really anything. It's actually very exciting. One of our Global Experiences colleagues, Kelly Holland, will be on King's campus actually on January 25th to do a strengths seminar with those of you that have either applied or enrolled by then. So definitely an incentive to get those applications in. And we'll talk about dates a little bit down the road too. But yeah, that's a little bit about strengths. Your housing is included in your program tuition, internship support. We will do interview prep calls with each of you to prepare you personally for your interviews so that you feel confident and prepared going into your interview. We are really good at what we do in that we, 9 times out of 10, your first interview will be your only interview. We like to consider ourselves the best at matching you with your internship placement. Also included in that is visa support. We don't need to get too much into the visa right now, but what you should know is that it's sometimes a rather lengthy process. So the sooner you can get that application in, the sooner we can get working on that visa, and we don't have to rush or feel stressed at all. And obviously there, in each location, there will be a 24/7 on-the-ground support system. They're named Christie in New York City and Victoria in DC. Both of them are both of them are wonderful at what they do. Sorry. And they're both experienced. They're both locals. Christie lives in New York. Victoria lives in DC. So you can always feel safe. They'll be your kind of home away from home while you're in either DC or New York. A little bit about what's not included in the tuition is your flight, so getting to the US, your meals, cost of the visa itself, local transportation after the first week. So for the first week, we'll provide you with either a subway card in New York or a Metro Pass in DC, which will be loaded up for the first week of your internship so that you can just focus on getting prepared and getting through that first week. And obviously any other personal expenses outside of that. So any traveling that you do outside of that will be on you. And I definitely recommend doing that. It's almost as easy to travel around the US as it is to fly around Europe. We have several budget airlines. We have a wonderful rail system, rental cars, the whole thing. It's great. I think Boston is less than 2-3 hours from New York. Philly is kind of actually, Philadelphia is in between DC and New York. I definitely recommend getting out to the West Coast if you have the opportunity to. So many travel options. The US is full of so many different places and so many different things to see. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of that while you are here. And one thing that's important to remember is that your internship supervisor is under full understanding that you are here not only for a professional experience, but for a cultural experience as well. So they're going to want you to get out and see New York and see DC and be a part of all things that happen. So you can look forward to that for sure. This is just a little bit more about the Strengths Finder. Once you enroll, you will receive a code to take an assessment to identify your top 5 strengths, and then you will have a one-on-one session with one of our professional development coaches that will be able to help you articulate your strengths in an interview and build your resume and cover letter so that we are able to present you to employers in DC and New York in the best way that we possibly can. All right, let's talk a little bit about the application process. So you will apply through King's Career Connect. After you apply, you will have a call with Kate. And if accepted, you will be accepted for 2 placement fields. You will get to choose these placement fields through your application, and we will determine, based on your qualifications, your resume, your experiences, if you're qualified for those 2 placement fields. And if you are, you'll receive an acceptance letter that outlines what you've been accepted for. After that, you'll confirm your participation in the program by depositing directly to King. So that's really important. Know that you'll be, when you deposit, you'll pay that deposit to King's, not to Global Experiences. So just keep that in mind. And then after that, you'll have that professional development call like I just talked about with one of our coaches. And then after that, you will finally land on my desk and we will have a one-on-one call to begin the internship process and the visa and really just get you excited to come spend your summer in the US.
So the way we like to explain the application process is that you will apply to one of the career fields that Haley mentioned in the beginning, not to a particular company. Just want to clarify that.
Great. So for example, you would apply for a marketing internship in New York as opposed to a marketing company.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Kate. All right, some important dates to keep in mind. The applications open on Monday, actually, December 10th, so this coming Monday. They will be rolling applications, and the one thing I'd love to mention is that the good placements go quickly. So get those applications in so that we can start working on your program and presenting you to employers in DC and New York. The visa process also, like I mentioned, is a bit lengthy, so the sooner we can get working on that, the better. January 25th, I already mentioned that Kelly will be coming. She's really excited to meet all of you, and she is the best at what she does when it comes to strengths. She'll be able to teach you how to articulate those in an interview and really present yourself to employers in the best way possible. The last day to apply will be February 11th, 2019, and then you will have until March 8th, 2019 to deposit to confirm your participation. And then fast forwarding just a little bit, the program start date will be June 9th of 2019, and the program end date will be August 3rd of 2019. So those are the days that you will want to, June 9th, I should say, is the day that you will want to arrive in the US to begin your adventure. Cool. So that's just a little bit about New York and DC and what we do and how everything is going to look for you this summer. I am really excited to open the floor to some questions if you all have them.
Hi, can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you, Andrew.
Wonderful. Does anybody, thank you very much for that. I think we had a little interruption in sound, but I think we caught all of it. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Just on the deposit, is that the full amount? Is the deposit the full amount of 4,000?
So we've got a question about the money. So the deposit is 10% of the program fee, and you'll need to decide on your accommodation at that point as well, so that the Global Experiences can start to secure that.
So when you pay, pay
there's another payment date in the end of March, and then by the time you're placed as well, so when you've accepted your host company. So we have a question. We have a question about applying for multiple sectors, and is that okay?
Sure. So when you apply, you'll designate your first career field, your first choice career field, and your second choice career field. What's important to remember with the visa that you will need for the US is that it has to pertain directly to your field of study, as it is kind of an exchange study visa. So while you do have two, you're able to make two choices for a career field, they do have to pertain directly to your field of study at King's.
Yeah.
So since the whole cost is like 5,000, so how much could we expect to make during the internship and cover? How much of the cost can cover just?
So as in a salary. So how much can a student expect to earn? I guess, are they allowed to earn as part of their visa, and do companies in the US pay?
Sure, good question. So we advertise all of our internships as unpaid. However, there have been cases in the past where an employer has opted to give a stipend for, say, transportation or food every week, something like that. But it's very uncommon that there will be an hourly rate or a salary for your internship, if that makes sense.
And I can chime in here as well. This is largely due to the visa regulations, but in addition, having an unpaid internship allows the employer to tailor your tasks to your interests and your passions, rather than having you spend all day doing administrative work or something like that. They can really try to focus on your own professional development.
Medical students or medical graduate, is there chances inside hospital? Will it be a practical internship?
For medical students, is there the chance to gain practical experience in hospitals?
Unfortunately, due to the visa regulations, that is not an option to do kind of field work or practical work in the medical field, unfortunately, no.
And are there options for kind of non-practical healthcare?
Duncan, maybe you'll
Yes,
speak better to this.
they are relatively limited, as you might expect. I mean, there are potential areas such as marketing within the healthcare sector, or if you are a psychologist with non-clinical psychology elements, there are placements there. But within the healthcare sector generally, and this is not just the US, but also generally within the internship sector worldwide, there are challenges doing practical medical elements or working practically within a medical company. So most of them tend to be peripheral or, in the psychological sense, within non-clinical psychology, such as social work, dealing with behavioral issues, dealing with drug addiction, etc., etc.
Thank you, Duncan.
Where would you find more information about some specialized requirements to?
So in terms of scholarships and funding, we'll send around a link. Essentially, we have a new Keats module and all of the information about global internships, the program here at King's, programs like the one we're doing with Global Experiences. That will all be live as of Monday. We have a page dedicated to scholarships and funding that you can access from across different departments at King's. And each of those kind of funds has different requirements, and you'll be able to see what they are for each fund. Unfortunately, there's not one pot of money at King's. There's lots of different pots to enable you to gain experience, to travel overseas. So we've linked to all of those, and they all have different requirements. Sounds very windy with you. If the students know people locally, do they have to take on a housing option with you? And are there other alternatives that they can do?
Sure. There is an option if you do know someone in the area, if you're fortunate enough, that's pretty cool, to have a local that you can live with. You're more than welcome to do that. In terms of pricing, I would assume that there would be a difference. We haven't worked that out yet, but just know that, yeah, that is an option.
So like American citizens applying for the internship, are there any benefits that we might get, access to more companies?
Are there any benefits for US citizens applying? Do they have access to more companies or different roles? Is there any scope there?
Just to clarify, you mean applying through the King's program or in terms of other people who are applying for internships at the same time?
So King's students who are American or have American citizenship applying through our program.
Sure. Personally, I think not. I don't think that, being American would really put you a step above. What would put you a step above would be your experience. So I would say no. The only difference between an American student and a non-American student at King's would be the visa requirement. But other than that, being an American or not doesn't put you a foot behind or a step ahead.
global experiences have in the industry?
So there's a question about partnerships with employers in the law and legal sector. And who are they?
Sure. Well, we don't need to go too much into specifics of who they are, but I can tell you that we've had past interns work directly with law firms in both DC and New York, and have had wonderful internships and with all kinds of practice of law. I really am not at liberty to, give the names of those, but I can tell you that those placements are there and they're wonderful placements.
I think it's fair to say that's kind of a common question that comes up with all of the providers we work with.
Sure.
I really want to stress that they want to understand your aims, what you want to learn, and it really is a tailored kind of matching process to you, your experience, and what you want from the internship.
Exactly. And once you enroll and we determine those placement fields and determine where you're going, we are able to provide you with sample tasks of what you might be involved with at your internship to really give you a better idea of what you'll be doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about government and policy. Do they actually find like something that has to do with government, or just think tanks and like researchers and stuff like that?
Are there, so government and policy related, are there roles within the government, or do they tend to focus around think tanks and research?
Yeah, I've seen a combination of both. We actually had an intern, actually 2 interns at a senator's office in New York last summer, which was pretty cool. They got to go to, some meetings and conferences and stuff with the senator himself, so that was cool. So while I can't say exactly, what you would be doing with that government placement, those placements do exist, and they love to host international interns as well. It's a cool cultural exchange program.
At what stage we all know what company you work for?
At what stage will the student find out what company they're going to work for?
Sure. So the placement process, depending on when you enroll, can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So what will happen is you'll have that coaching call. Your professional development coach will help you finalize that resume to send to me. I will look it over and approve it, assuming that all of it looks great, which I'm sure it will. And after that, we will send you off to our placement team in New York and DC, who will then begin to present you to employers in those locations, or I should say whichever location you have opted for. You won't really see a lot of the behind the scenes things, but just know that our placement team is working hard to present you to employers, and once we have that match, I will have a fun phone call for you to tell you, hey, we have an interview for you. We'll do some interview prep and get you ready for that interview. So I would say that, like I said, 9 times out of 10, that first interview is the only interview. In terms of timeline, like I said, it really depends on when you enroll. So those good placements go quickly. So get those applications in and we can start presenting you. But you should also be aware too that you could be interviewing anywhere from January up until May. It just depends on how the process is going and the need of the employers at the time.
What type of visa do you work
What type of visa? So it's a J1 visa?
Correct. It's a J1 student exchange visa that is based on a cultural exchange. So your employer, your host employer will know that you're here, like I said, for a professional experience, but you're also here for a cultural experience as well. If there are any of you in the room that are American citizens attending King's, you will not need a J1 visa to intern in the US as you are a citizen. Anyone else in the room that is not will require J1, but don't be afraid. We'll work on it together. It'll be fun.
Sorry, going back to the whole thing about sponsorships. Would we know if we get the sponsorship before we confirm the job offer that we get?
It will depend on the funding that you get from King's. So as I said earlier, there's lots of pots of money that we've kind of all pulled together, all the information for, so it's easy for you to find out about. But unfortunately, they all have different deadlines and kind of turnaround times. Some of them are in January, some of them are in March, some are in May. So it would, some of you can find out whether you're successful in funding before you commit to the program, but that depends entirely on which department at King is awarding the money.
So the follow-up question is basically, if we, let's say, accept the job and it turns out that we don't have the funding to go, can we still we'd be allowed to turn down the job offer? In the sense that you then you get an email saying that something being like rejected, and you just can't have, you don't have anything to go to the US, would it be perfectly okay just to turn down the job offer that you received?
I mean, you can always turn down an offer, but when you pay the deposit, you are committing to the program financially. And we've kind of terms and conditions on the website, which I'll link towards afterwards as well, so you can read that. But yeah, when you're program.
I think it's important too to mention, Andrew, if you don't mind, sorry if I interrupted, to mention that once you deposit, you are committing to that location and the placement fields that you've been accepted for. So just to mention that.
Thanks.
What about before the deposit? Before you pay the deposit, you want about elements?
Yes, that's fine. Any more questions? No? One question, yeah.
Yeah. So do we have any opportunity to find a full-time job for this internship?
Say again, sorry.
I mean, do we have any opportunity to switch this internship into a full-time job?
Is there opportunity to convert the internship into a full-time job at the end of the internship program?
We have seen that for sure happen. A lot of it too is just dependent on the visa. I actually worked with a student recently this past fall who absolutely fell in love with his internship in DC and wanted to extend his internship. So he is going to be there for another 3 months. In terms of full-time, it obviously depends on what the employer needs. And if it's offered to you, we can see what we can do and work with our visa sponsor to try to get you to stay as long as possible.
Great question.
Anyone else? No? I think that's probably it for questions.
Okay.
So we're going to send around some more information about the program with some links to key things that you should review, and the application form, which, as was said in the presentation, will open on Monday. We're also looking at Duncan from Global Experiences coming onto campus. If you do have questions that you want to ask before you submit your application, you can do. And in the information send around, there'll also be an email address for your team, so you'll be able to ask directly or to the King's team here as well before you apply. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
No, I just want to say that I can speak on behalf of GE when I say that we are so excited to have you guys in New York and DC again this summer. It's going to be a fantastic program, and we are looking forward to seeing your applications.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to working with you guys.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. We will share some things with the group here tomorrow, and hopefully get some applications to you in the next few weeks.
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. See you in London.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
So